Thanks for watching. This is the biggest 10 scale I've ever seen in my life. This is the all-new Losi Hammer Rey. They advertise this as a 10 scale, I think because it has a lot of 10 scale components. So if you're familiar with the Baja Rey line of products, so whether that be the Baja Rey trophy truck or the Rock Rey, who is this truck for? Is this truck for you if you want to go bash with your friends in a skate park? I don't think so. This is the truck for you if you want to have a realistic performing truck that does really well on rough terrain and also on a bit more technical sections, like for example some rocky terrain, some rough terrain. Then this might actually be exactly what you need. If you're not familiar with this truck, this is the Currie Trophy Jeep, which is the race truck that he used for King of the Hammers. Now, I'm a big King of the Hammers fan, despite living on the other side of the planet. I have 7 years ago in 2015, I modified my Axial Exoterra with a Jeep body and put like a King of the Hammers logo on it. But I did not have a solid rear axle. So that's something that I really wanted to have. And currently, the way that this thing sits, I think they absolutely nailed the look of it. And seeing right now that this thing comes as a ready-to-run package, I think is fantastic. If you look at the amount of suspension droop that's going on, you can only imagine how well this thing is going to absorb rough terrain, obstacles, and all that other crazy stuff. If you want to make sure that you stay up to date with my content and also with the upcoming running video of this Losi Hammer Rey, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and let me know that you like these type of videos by pressing the like button. It also helps my videos to climb up in the algorithm a tiny bit, gets them seen by more people. I don't just do unboxings, I also do a lot of paint videos, modifications, some CNC work, 3D printing, you name it. Now, let's go look at all the details. If we start over here in the back, you see of course that there's a big roll cage and all of the cross members and everything completely mimics the full-size truck built by Currie and his team. Then you see these MagnaFlow pipes sticking out of the sides of that roll cage. And I think that that in itself adds such an incredible amount of aggression to the look of this thing that it's just completely sick, to be honest. Functional spare tire. So over here you see a Nitto Trail Grappler tire. Nitto as well is one of the licensing partners, and that Nitto tire is mounted to a KMC machete wheel. At least I believe this is the machete. If I'm wrong about that, let me know in the comment section. So this thing, you can actually take it off and use it as a spare wheel if you have a blowout on one of these corners. I don't think yet you will experience that anytime soon because these tires feel really good. Some fire extinguishers also mounted to the top of that roll cage, and then over here you also see some reservoirs for the shocks. Of course these are faux, but seeing that they're licensed by a Fox is, I think, a cool additional feature. Also some more shock detail going on the top over here. And then if you look at the back of the cage, right behind the driver and the navigator, you will also see that there's a radiator piece over there with two big faux cooling fans. Really cool to see this amount of detail included with a ready-to-run truck. On the sides of the body over here, you also see some bump stops. So if you would bottom the suspension out completely, then the last thing saving you from having like a complete neck hernia are these bump stops over here. Of course, in the full-sized truck, because this thing you can just slide it on its roof, hopefully without getting injured yourself if you point it the right direction. The detail doesn't just stop there. If you look at the interior panel as well, it's a really nice interior panel with a driver figure and a navigator that are holding on for the dear life of them. And then also some side mirrors over here. They really nailed the shape of all of that stuff because it looks completely the same as the full-size race truck. Baja Designs is another licensing partner. You can see their sticker over here on the side panel. And what they've done, they've provided, I think, the licensing for this light bar over here in the front and also for the headlights and a tiny light bar that sits inside of the front bumper. All of that stuff is functioning as well, so that's pretty amazing, I think, for a ready-to-run truck. The only thing that I don't really like is they took some liberties with the grille. The Currie truck has a really iconic 4-slot grille, which is made from an actual Jeep grille, and they had to remove that, I think, just in order to comply with some of the licensing agreements. Now, thankfully, I have a CNC machine, so the first thing I did, even before cutting the thing off the cardboard, was designing a part that I can glue over this just to replicate that look of that Currie truck. Like I said, wheels and tires. These wheels and tires are 2.2 sized. So there are, of course, plenty of aftermarket options. However, tire-wise, I'm not sure you want to do anything to this. This truck is rated for 3S, so don't expect any super crazy speeds. This truck is more for, like I said, realistic driving, tackling some rough off-road terrain, and then also doing some technical stuff perhaps, and then blasting out of that. For that, it's absolutely perfect, and I think that these tires in that aspect as well will really do their job. Now, attaching those wheels to the chassis are some pretty stout lower A-arms. These are completely closed off on the top, so you don't have to be afraid that any debris or rocks will get caught in your drive shafts. So all of that is good thinking. If you look on the inside of this wheel, you will see that there's a faux brake disc and a faux caliper. That as well is pretty cool. These shocks are plastic bodied, but they do have an aluminum top cap. It feels really plush, this suspension. There's also a bump stop included, and I did not find any oil inside of the box, so these shocks, they don't leak, they feel excellent. There's 2 shocks on the front, and then in the back you will see there's actually 4 shock absorbers. So just like the real thing, there's a double shock absorber in the back. One of them is a coilover, and the other one is a regular shock absorber. Really cool to see the amount of detail and the amount of effort that they put in just to make it look as good as possible. You will see that the tie rods in the front, these are non-adjustable in length. The same goes for the steering rods, but seeing how the truck is set up geometry wise, I don't hate on that at all, because I'm imagining that they put some extra strength inside of those parts rather than having that adjustability. Not completely sure about the servo specs. I do know that it is, of course, a Spectrum servo, and it is waterproof. You will find that there's a 3mm chassis plate with a top part as well, so kind of sandwiches everything together. Also encompasses then that front bulkhead, keeps everything securely tucked in place. If you want to drop the motor out, you can just release it by taking out these 3 screws over here, and by doing that you can drop your motor. Look at your pinion and see that everything is the way that it is supposed to be. Now, your motor is a 3150 kV brushless motor, of course also by Spectrum, and the ESC is a 130 amp waterproof ESC that on paper should be able to tackle 4S, but they don't recommend putting anything more than 3S in it, so keep that in mind. This is a heavy truck, just like the Losi LMT. This is the exact same setup that you would find in a ready-to-run Losi LMT. And there as well, despite it taking 4S, don't overpower it, so don't go over 3S. The back as well has plastic drive shafts with metal yokes, just like the front. These drive shafts are pretty coarse, they have a pretty coarse spline going on. I'm still really bad at muting my stuff. And in that, this is also a tried and tested design. So parts availability is not going to be a problem, because I'm thinking that these parts as well are parts that carry over from the Rock Ray and the Baja Ray line of products. These trailing arms really feel like durable plastic. I'm pretty sure that you can find upgrades for these. Another thing that strikes you perhaps when you look at the back is this huge sway bar. Now, the sway bar that you see in the back over here, that is a true replica of the Currie sway bar, is actually non-functioning. And you might think that that's a bummer, but the actual sway bar sits in the front. So if you look at the front over here, the first thing that you would encounter on that trailing arm is what is the functioning sway bar, which goes through the chassis to the other side. So in keeping the truck planted, that happens in the front, and then this thing here in the back is just for looks. However, I do think that it looks fantastic, and also of course in rough terrain, once you see that rear axle flopping about, it is cool to also see that sway bar moving, just to give you something more to look at. I can't wait to take this thing out, see how well it actually behaves in the rough terrain, and to see how realistic it looks once I start slowing the footage down a tiny bit, really sending it over perhaps some sand with some rocks in it, and see how this thing performs. I don't think there's a whole lot of competition inside of this market. You could argue perhaps that the Traxxas UDR is its main competitor. I don't think that it is, because this is a totally different price category. And in that it also is accessible to a lot more folks than, for example, the UDR. The battery that I'm going to run is a Gens Ace 5000 mAh 3 cell, which pops right in. However, if you want to have the telemetry going on, then you should use smart batteries, for example, from a Spectrum. If you use a smart battery, you would be able to read out your battery level on your radio. This is a Spectrum DX3 radio, really familiar looking unit. I think takes 4 AA batteries, which are included with your manual over here. All of your reverse switches are on the top, all of your trim switches are on the front. It has a foam wheel, nothing special about it. I'm not sure if this button over here operates the lights or not, but you might be able to set it up that way if you like doing that, if you like tinkering around with it. I hope this was an informative look at this truck. I'm going to paint it up a tiny bit. If you have suggestions on what you'll like to see me do paint-wise, let me know. Also, let me know what you think of the scale of this. Do you think it's weird that companies advertise something as 10 scale and then when you pull it out of the box, you're surprised by its actual size and come to the conclusion that it's something completely different? Is that a bad thing or not? Should 10 scale be 10 scale, or can it also be, like in this case, 7 scale? I am a true fan of this realism that is also durable, but like not crazy in the basher segment, to put it like that. Let me know your thoughts. Always like hearing them. If you enjoy these videos, hit subscribe. It's free. If you have any comments about this Losi Hammer Rey, let me know in the comment section. We'll try to get back to you. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, and I hope I will see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.
Back on.